All right. What is up, guys? This is episode 2 of the SportsTalkeyes show. Here with me, I have Keegan, Mitch, and Tanner. Today, we're going to be talking more about the NBA free agency drama. We're going to mainly be talking about the Clippers and the OKC Thunder. So let's hop right into it. Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers for 4 years, $142 million in free agency. But one of the biggest surprises was he also got PG13, Paul George, to demand a trade from the Thunder and is now on the Clippers as well. So I just want to know y'all's first reactions to that whole trade. I think Keegan should start with this one.
All right, gentlemen. So at the time when the decision broke that Kawhi would be coming to LA to play for the Clippers, I was on vacation in Phoenix at the time, and we were just wrapping up, getting ready to go to bed, and I think I'd been laying there for about an hour or so, and I'm really close to falling asleep. You know, well, I'm not expecting anything to break. Kawhi Leonard had been resting on his, whatever he was resting on. He was in Toronto at one point. He was back in San Diego, actually, when it broke that he was going to be there. And all of a sudden, right as everyone was about to fall asleep, I was on the West Coast, close to the West Coast anywhere in Phoenix. I can't imagine Tanner was even awake at the time out in New York. But it breaks that Kawhi Leonard comes to the Clippers. And I lose my mind immediately. I did not think that Kawhi was actually going to come to the Clippers. All year long, we had heard Kawhi to the Clippers. In my mind, I thought he was going to come to the Clippers unless the Raptors made a push to the conference finals. And if he made it to the finals, and if the Raptors somehow won it, I thought it was a surefire thing that he was going to re-sign for 2 years and then be able to get a super max that a player of 10 years or longer with that tenure is available for in the NBA. However, we all got surprised. And not only that, but Paul George comes along too. Because I was freaking out when Kawhi turns out to go to the Clippers instead of the Lakers or the Raptors. But then Paul George comes out of nowhere and apparently has been talking with Kawhi for a few days now at that moment in time about trying to get him to also come to LA to play for the Clippers. Above anything else, I was really surprised that Kawhi was recruiting Paul George. There are also reports that Kawhi was trying to recruit Kevin Durant to come to the Clippers, but that did not work out. All in all, right now, with only losing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, and then more than a couple first-round picks. But hopefully when you're a title contender, those aren't very good picks. The Clippers are emerging as one of the 2 best teams in the West, both ironically in LA at the moment. But right now they seem to be the favorites, not only in Vegas, by a lot of people on ESPN, Fox Sports, wherever you look at. They seem to be favorites, and rightly so.
Absolutely. Tanner?
Yeah, I mean, my reaction was simply one word, and it was wow. Not only was it not what I was expecting, you have a team who, besides the finals, because obviously the injuries and whatnot, but before the finals, gave Golden State the best run. They won 2 games, tied with Houston. They won 2 games without a superstar, and you have a team predicated on good defense and sharing the basketball with people like Patrick Beverley, who are picking up full court, getting under players like Kevin Durant's skin, throwing them off their game. You got Montrezl Harrell locking down the paint. Then you get 2 superstars. Not only are they superstars, they're the 2 best two-way players in the game. I don't think really anyone can argue that. Great defenders, great scoring the basketball, and 2 guys who just want to win. Like neither of them, or Paul George hasn't won in a while. You all know Kawhi Leonard's attitude. He just wants to win no matter where he goes. They have a lot of things going right for them, and even the coach, even one of the, Doc Rivers, one of the best coaches in the NBA. So my reaction was wow, because not only do you have a scary team, but you have a scary team in the same city as the other scary team in the West.
Mitch, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that I'd think about when I think about the implications and where we thought he might go was the conversation that we, Keegan, had when we were playing basketball about a week or so before the news broke, maybe a little north of a week. But we were just kind of thinking the ultimate thing that made sense in our mind, at least at the time, was Kawhi stay, and it turned into a meme. But we thought this guy's going to stay. This guy won. It was a surprise victory over the heavily favored Golden State Warriors. But then the next thing that we started thinking about once Kawhi actually made the move to LA was, could it be considered a quote unquote weak move? KD to Warriors-esque, maybe even LeBron to the Heat-esque. But in my mind, I know the general vibe when we started talking about it, the general conversation that we had about it, at least in the group chat, was no. Kawhi did all he had to do in Toronto. The Toronto faithful have been nothing but grateful that this guy actually went and did what no other Toronto team had ever done before. With superstars like Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady, they got close but no cigar. Kawhi did that. So in my mind, it's a well-deserved payday, and he goes from one obviously very good team to now another team where he's the star, the nucleus, the one that's gonna power the Clippers forward. So in my mind, no problems or no qualms with it at all. It was certainly surprising, though.
Yeah, I think we were all surprised by that. I, of course, being an NBA fan in general, was up on my phone when the news broke, 1 a.m., I believe, in Central Time. And, of course, me being a OKC Thunder fan, I was furious, but we'll touch on that a little later. But as Tanner said, they are two of the best two-way players, both defensively and offensively. And then you match that up with a young, good core such as Patrick Beverley, who's not young, but he's good defensively. Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. It'll be interesting to see how well this Clippers team does in the beginning. I think a good comparison to this, maybe on the same level, maybe a little above, is comparing this team to the Miami Heat when LeBron came. No, it wasn't like the Heat, like Kevin Durant going to the Warriors after they got beat. Kawhi, like Keegan said before, always kind of in the back of his mind was, I'm going to the Clippers. And I think that's why, with Paul George aspect, I think that's why we didn't get a answer to where Kawhi's going early in the free agency. He was recruiting Paul George the entire time, and maybe Kevin Durant and a mixture of those guys. So that brings us into the next topic. The Lakers, at the beginning of the free agency, was obviously after trying to get another superstar. And obviously Kawhi didn't go to the Lakers. Instead, they picked up. So my question to y'all is, did the Lakers lose or win the Pelicans trade with giving away that much young talent and not acquiring a big superstar? I just want to hear y'all's thoughts on that. Anybody can take this one.
Yeah, I mean, I could take it. I feel like I kind of mentioned this a little bit on the last show, but I think it's way too early to determine a winner and a loser. But if I had to right now, I would say that Los Angeles did win because they have LeBron James. They have a 36-year-old LeBron James who's been in the NBA since he was 18. He's had 18 years of tons of mileage on those legs. He's nowhere near what physically what he used to be. And you tried to throw your young core with LeBron, and it did not work. It did not work at all. LeBron made it clear to you that he wants Anthony Davis and he wants other superstars. He right now is your team. You talk about your young core. The minute you got LeBron, you threw that out the window. He was the new focal point of your team, and whatever he wants goes. And he said he wanted the superstar. You brought in a superstar, and now you're still one of the favorites in the West. I mean, Golden State's hobbled. Obviously, the Clippers got better. Houston made some moves, but you're still one of the favorites in the West. You got better. So I think right now, I don't think you can call them a loser.
Absolutely.
Mitch, you want to go next?
Well, yeah, kind of along a similar thought. I think one thing that it does do, however, is if they don't start seeing the results that they're expecting, the excuses are over. Like you said, LeBron has the star power alongside him now. Last year this is a young, untested team. Just give us a few years. All of that is thrown completely out the window. This is their chance to, take initiative and, once again, bring good star-powered basketball to LA, to one side of LA at least. We know the Clippers will be what they will be, but
well, I mean, even though there are two LA teams, there really is only one LA team in the Lakers. The Clippers are and have always been little brother. They're going to try to attest it a little more this year.
It'll always be the Lakers city, absolutely.
But unless the Clippers from here on out for the next 30, 40 years do what the Lakers did in the 1900s.
In the previous 30, 40 years.
Yeah. It's like, unless the Clippers can rattle off that kind of dominance, it's Lakers. It's Lakers town. That's what LA is.
right.
For the Lakers-Pelicans trade, I think I agree with the notion that it's way too early to tell whether one team or another has won, especially with this kind of a trade, because you have a bunch of young players and picks, a lot of young assets going to the Pelicans, and one huge elite asset in Anthony Davis going to the Lakers. So just by virtue of needing time to tell, it's going to be hard to see who won. It seems to be a pretty even trade, though. So whenever you have someone taking one side or another, you have one on the – if you have a guy saying that the Lakers won, it's probably going to be because the Lakers are able to compete at a high level right now. And the thing is about young talent, you don't know. With Anthony Davis, you know. He's an elite player. He is a undisputed top 7 player. Some people say top 5. I wouldn't go much further than top 5, personally. But the thing is Anthony Davis is great, and it's hard to argue otherwise. My thing is I think that the Pelicans will win the trade if this happens. And this would be if Lonzo and Brandon Ingram develop. As of right now, if Lonzo and Ingram don't really go anywhere, the Lakers won the trade. If the Lakers don't do what they look like they're going to do and compete for titles throughout the upcoming years, and the picks that they gave the Pelicans turn into lottery picks, then the Pelicans won the trade.
Absolutely.
But if those young assets don't develop, then the Lakers won. And I think it's that simple. I don't think that in the end of the day, I don't think that this is going to be looked back as a lopsided trade either way. I think that Lonzo and Ingram will develop a bit, and I think that the Lakers will be contending for championships years to come. But it's going to be really interesting to see how the Pelicans play out, because they flipped the coin so fast on a rebuild.
Yeah.
Because some people are saying they're going to be a playoff team this year. And if you had told me they'd be a playoff team without Anthony Davis this upcoming year, I would have had no idea how it would have happened.
Or go back in time 2 years without Boogie Cousins before the league.
Yeah, exactly.
Those guys will both be gone.
I think
Sorry.
I'm going to go against the grain. I I think the Lakers didn't lose a trade. They lost free agency. Yes, Anthony Davis, LeBron. That's a dynamic duo, which is what seems to be the trend in the NBA right now with the Clippers and everyone else. But look who they signed instead of getting Kawhi. Not as well as he's done in the past, Boogie Cousins, Danny Green, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Rajon Rondo, Quinn Cook, and JaVale McGee. Those are good assets, but when you're trying to shoot for one of the best players in the league, I think they ended up short. I mean, the only really good pickup, I think, or good pickup is Danny Green because he can play both ways and he's a shooter, which obviously LeBron loves that. He likes to drive and kick. Boogie, it would be a good pick before his injury because he is one of the most dominant big men in the league, but he got hurt with the same injury as KD has at the moment. KCP has worked with LeBron, didn't work out. Rajon Rondo is old, not what he used to be. Quinn Cook, it'll be interesting to see how he works in the system. And then, of course, classic JaVale McGee. We all know how that works.
Don't forget about Jared Dudley.
Oh, and Jared Dudley, right, yeah. Great pickups by the Lakers when you're shooting for Kawhi. But anyway.
Pretty sure I've seen Jared Dudley at our local rec, by the way. Could have
went down it.
So,
I was gonna say it was a solid pickup from Looney Tunes. He kind of looks like Porky Pig.
Also, as for the Pelicans, it seems like everything kind of fell in their lap. They weren't anywhere projected to get the number 1 pick. It fell in their lap. Zion Williamson, I mean, supposedly the next LeBron James, according to many ESPN analysts. To be determined, obviously, but who knows? And then they have a good young core. Like Keegan said, it'll be interesting to see if Lonzo and Brandon Ingram can develop. If they do, I personally think the Pelicans won this trade because I still think the Lakers needed another decent player. Not Kawhi, but I mean, Danny Green's a good pickup, but not the tier they need it to be. I mean, LeBron's going to be playing point guard. Yeah, that's kind of what he's been doing his entire career. But who's going to surround him and AD? Danny Green and who else? And Boogie, not as good as he once was, Boogie Cousins. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to see how the Lakers play against the other team in the LA area, the Clippers. So it'll be fun looking at the battle for LA. As you know, the Oklahoma City Thunder went from one of the top leaders in the West to full rebuild. And they're not even doing that right. They traded Paul George. They got some draft picks from championship contender LA Clippers and the Heat, who will probably be decent. They picked up a good talent. This is the only thing I'm happy about the rebuild so far. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's a good pickup. Danilo Gallinari, trash, awful. And then so that happened first. And then a couple days later, we trade Russell Westbrook to the Houston Rockets for Chris Paul, a 35 or 36-year-old point guard. Great rebuild piece, I gotta say. And then, but wait, first round picks in 24 and 26, pick swaps in 21 and 25. So, and not to mention his contract, 3 years, $124 million. So that'll be fun to see the rebuild process. I'm furious as a Oklahoma City Thunder fan. We've lost James Harden, Serge Ibaka, Victor Oladipo, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Paul George. And you can't deny that they have all, with the exception of PG and Russell Westbrook, but they probably will get better due to history of players leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's disappointing. The GM needs to be fired as soon as possible. This is perhaps the worst rebuild. The freaking look what the Knicks did. This is sad. I'm furious at the Oklahoma City Thunder front office. Can I get y'all's opinion on this whole situation?
All right, who wants to try to put out the fire first?
I could if I could step in for a moment. And before you take a step forward, you got to take a step back because this is so. I know we kind of moved on, but returning once again back to the Pelicans, because one thing that you said that I kind of want to push back on was what you said that the trade just kind of fell into their lap. I will agree that Zion Williamson with the new anti-tank laws that were put in, not laws or rules that were put into effect, that that may be a case of Zion falling into lap. No one expected them. All of the mock drafts, no one had the Pelicans, or very few had the Pelicans at the number one pick. But specifically regarding the trade with Anthony Davis, I would call that less of falling into your lap and more of taking a calculated risk. Anthony Davis is only 26 years old. He turns 27 in March. As Keegan said, obviously he's one of the top centers in the league, top 7 player in the NBA. For whatever reason, the Pelicans front office felt, hey, this isn't the guy that we want to build a team around. The guy that we want to build a team around now that we have him is Zion Williamson. It's an example of taking calculated risk. But as we've already talked about, in our minds, we feel that the Pelicans are taking a good calculated risk in the fact that they're bringing a lot of youth to the team and a potential young core in, say, 2 or 3 years to be competitive for a very long time. Now, switching gears now to the Thunder, and I can see where a lot of your criticisms might come. Now, to my understanding, and this is just based on a few articles that I've read, so I might be wrong here and things might have changed, the Thunder don't actually plan for Chris Paul to ever play a game in a Thunder uniform. They essentially want to flip him. Whether I'm sure they want to flip for prospects, I'm not sure. But one thing that I was thinking about was, so did they think that they could get more from Chris Paul than they could have for Russell Westbrook? Or I'm not exactly sure how that might have worked out, but in my mind, they could have just outright flipped Russell Westbrook for a lot more than they ended up flipping, or in my mind, what they're planning to do in the future, what people are saying they plan to do in the future, and flipping Chris Paul for either picks or other prospects. But that's just my 2 cents.
Keegan?
Yeah, I think that the GM for the Thunder did the right thing, sort of. I think that it was good that he blew it up. And here's why. Russell Westbrook cannot be one of the 2 best players on a championship team.
Oh,
you can't.
No one can argue that.
Okay, hang on. Stay with me here. Paul George requests a trade from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Demands. He's smacking his fist on the table. He wants out of Oklahoma City. Are you not going to trade him? You have to trade him. You don't want a situation like Kristaps Porzingis in New York. You don't want a situation like Anthony Davis and the Pelicans in New Orleans. You're not going to have a disgruntled star sitting here in Oklahoma City. And so you trade him to LA and you get what you can get back.
Yeah, but
honestly, you got back a whole lot of
someone better. They should have gotten someone better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yes, that's a good pick. But Danilo Gallinari, you have said this before. He is one of the worst players on that team. Why would you not try and get some young talent?
I'm sorry. I just need
Danilo Gallinari is not one of the worst players on the team.
Okay. Danilo Gallinari averaged 20 points a game last year. He's a lifetime 16 per game scorer. Okay. So I just got to throw some respect on my man Gallo's name. Okay. Okay.
But
how old?
Compared to the team he has around him, we should have gotten someone better than him. Like especially that you're trying to
Oh
rebuild.
my God! Oh, I'm so sorry. Travis d'Arnaud just hit a 3-run homer to put the Rays up 5-4. I'm so sorry. I was watching again. This man has 5 RBIs, and he got DFA'd from the Mets. All right, sorry guys, sorry.
You think everyone gets better when they leave? You think everyone gets better when they leave the Thunder? Come on,
I need
Mets.
to take
See
a,
how that works. All
I
right.
need to take a
Mitch
walk.
is gonna go for a walk.
I'll be right back.
I'm
All right.
just saying, compared to the players on the Clippers that are way younger than Danilo Gallinari, why did we not go after Montrezl Harrell? That's one dude I
I think this is why. Because I think that for Doc Rivers, for Steve Ballmer and the Clippers organization, not to mention Jerry West, I think a guy like Montrezl Harrell was untouchable. There are
I
certain
agree.
players who they just weren't
Especially
going to
giving
trade.
up all those trade pick or all those draft picks.
I was gonna say you got to look at all the draft picks, and I don't think that Danilo Gallinari is going to stay at Thunder for this long.
Probably not.
Because Danilo Gallinari is going to be traded. Chris Paul is going to be traded. The thing is I think that the reason why I think Russell Westbrook was turned to Chris Paul and picks was because I don't think the Thunder thought that they could deal Russell Westbrook to a bad team that would have given them enough good picks. Because a bad team adding Russell Westbrook obviously becomes a better team. Because getting Russell Westbrook, you have one of the hardest working guys night to night. He's going to give you high 70 to 82 games a season, tough triple doubles. And with triple doubles, generally speaking, comes wins. And so with Russell Westbrook on a bad team becomes a good team. It's just the way the Russell is. It's the way the regular season is. Adding Chris Paul, a old injured veteran, onto a bad team may not end up being a good team because he can very easily get injured. We've seen it before. He might not be able to galvanize a team the way that a younger electric Russell Westbrook can. Because of all of those reasons, I think that trading Russell Westbrook to the Rockets to get Chris Paul back, the picks that you'll get from Chris Paul will be better than the picks you can get from Russell Westbrook. And then trading Paul George, it's something that you had to do. I think that you pretty much optimized the most you could do with Russell Westbrook and Paul George, given how fast they had to move to optimize the assets that they're bringing back in. Do I think that they could have taken more time to think about it and to figure out from all teams in the NBA whether they wanted Paul George or Russell Westbrook? Sure. But Paul George was going to go to the Clippers because that's what he demanded. And Russell Westbrook, you have to turn him into someone else in order to turn him into best picks. That's my take on it.
But who wants a 35, 36-year-old Chris Paul? That's my thing. How do you know you're going to trade him? I mean, yeah, he's a good player, but he's 35. No one's going to pick up that big of a contract.
Someone like a team with JJ Barea as their point guard, or a team other team in the West. I'm sure you could find a suitor for Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Or even have him play for a while, and then around the deadline, teams are always looking for a veteran to make it impact. Be the perfect type of guy.
So, in my view of this spectrum, from Keegan to Sam, I actually kind of agree with Keegan on this one because.
Where am I on that spectrum?
You're somewhere in the middle. I kind of agree with somewhere between Keegan and Mitch because the Paul George trade, I agree, a disgruntled star is really bad for an organization, and nobody's value is lower than when they publicly demand a trade. And at this point, at the time the deal was made, it had really not been made public yet until it was announced that Paul George was in fact being traded to the Clippers. You have a team who's very motivated to get that done that night, and a team who's obviously in the Thunder who are motivated because they don't want news to get out that he wants to trade and his value to go down. So the only criticism I have is kind of in agreement with Keegan. It kind of seemed like the decision was made kind of like that, where you could have taken a little bit more time, but nobody knew that Paul George had demanded a trade, so maybe they had done some shopping that was actually a well-kept secret. We might not know. It did seem like it was a little kind of on a whim, the decision, but with the cards that were given to them, I do think the trade was definitely a smart move to get him out while his value is the highest, get him to a motivated customer, and get back some, or just like you said, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, great piece to have for a rebuilding team. And then the Westbrook trade, that one I think is a little bit more confusing. I do kind of see what Keegan is saying here, though, that a team that thinks they're one player, a point guard away, and they do in fact get Chris Paul and he does get injured. That very possibly could be it, or the way Westbrook plays, they thought more teams will be interested in Chris Paul, even though he is older. But with everything that was given to them, which really is not a good hand, that's a really tough way for an organization to start the rebuild. But you kind of had to do it. What they had as their superstar core was kind of on the way out. 2 years of not really any noise in the playoffs, so you had to do something.
Yeah, I see where y'all coming from, but it's frustrating that this isn't the first time this has happened at the Thunder organization. I don't know if y'all saw, they actually tried to ship Westbrook or Paul George to Toronto, actually, for Siakam and picks through 2029. And obviously, that's a little insane to give up picks for Russell Westbrook or Paul George. I can't remember which one, through 2029.
Yeah.
So
I think I saw that it was Westbrook.
Yeah.
And I think I saw the deal breaker was Siakam.
Yeah. I mean, especially with them losing Kawhi Leonard, it's pretty
big. Be his team now. Him and Lowry. It's their team.
Yeah. I can't remember whether this was on the agenda or not, but I do want to throw this out there. If you're Toronto, what do you do from here? Do you decide to try and go at it another year, see what Siakam does, and just see what happens, or do you blow it up? What do you do?
For me, I think it might be even a little late to blow it up. And you have guys like Marc Gasol, who's not on a good contract, only has one more year of it though, and then once that's off the books, you can really start to take a deeper look with a little bit more room to play with. Lowry, I mean, everyone loves to talk about Kyle Lowry as, not performing in the playoffs, not, overrated this, overrated that. But, I mean, the guy played really well in the playoffs. Shut up everyone. He's looking like he maybe can take a next step. Because he's always had really a superstar guard or a superstar, someone else who can handle the ball with him, whether it be DeRozan and then Kawhi. But now he's kind of the only ball handler. So maybe he can take a little bit more responsibility and start, elevating his game a little bit more. But once you just kind of got to wait out this Gasol contract, in my opinion. $20+ million for an older center who really didn't give you much value.
Yeah. Mitch?
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I would say just simply because of the fact that they exist in the East, and the East is obviously going to be the weaker conference. It would be, in my mind, a bit of a little too quick to the trigger for them to just outright say blow it up. But yeah, in my mind, they got to understand that the championship probably will not be coming this year, but it's okay to have a very competitive team and, not win it all. Obviously, no organization actually wants to say that, but in that particular case, I think that's the general mindset that the front office might have.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is too late to blow up the whole return, like to just start rebuilding as soon as possible. One interesting thing I saw on ESPN today is DeMar DeRozan is actually looking to be shipped out of San Antonio. So there might be a Lowry, DeMar DeRozan reunion, but I don't think, like Mitch said, championships not in their eyesight this year. But I think we'll see a team a little worse than when they had Lowry and DeRozan. But other than that, I don't think. I'll expect them to be like a 7th seed in the playoffs. Not too great, not too bad, but it'll be interesting to see what they do without Kawhi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all those points. I think that if they were going to trade some assets to start a rebuild, I think that would have been a good idea to do it pretty much immediately after the days following the Kawhi signing. And now that they're sitting here where they are, I think they're going to try to move forward with the pieces they have right now for at least this season, and perhaps trying to make changes around the All-Star break, seeing where things lie at that point. Because if they're on the outside looking in terms of playoffs, then they might try to make some moves.
Start rebuilding.
Start rebuilding. But we'll just have to find out. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing to kind of wrap up the show is obviously the dynamic duos are starting to be the trend in the NBA. That being said, who do you think is going to be the most impactful dynamic duo in the upcoming season?
If we're talking in terms of pure impact or sheer impact, I think it's got to be LeBron and Anthony Davis. I mean, the Lakers obviously didn't sniff the playoffs last year. Everyone was thinking that they were going to be a top team in the West, and they ended up just head over heels outright flopping. But in terms of outright impact, I think it's got to be the Lakers. I think that team is going to significantly improve, and I think this might be a bit of a hot take, but I think they'll be a top 3 team in the West this upcoming season.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Tanner, you want to go next?
I'm going to pretty much have to agree with Mitch. I don't think you can go with any other team, but I'm going to go for a little different reason because the Clippers were already a playoff team. You just went from good to great. The Lakers were bottom. They were just bad. And now they are, as Mitch just said, a top 3 team in the West. I think they're absolutely a top 3 team in the West. And just, I don't think you can have a bigger impact than that. I mean, looking around, like I said, the Clippers are already a good team. KD's not even playing this season. Yeah. So I'm going with LeBron and Anthony Davis as well.
Something that kind of tripped me up. So the question was, which dynamic duo will have the biggest impact, correct?
Yes.
So in terms of straight up answering the question, I do think that by virtue of going from out of the playoffs to a title contender, the LeBron and AD gives you that answer. I'm gonna argue something else here, and that's I don't think.
Here's a better question: who do you think will be the most successful duo next year?
The most successful duo, that's probably going to be Kawhi and PG.
No bias. Look at his hat.
No bias.
Yeah.
There.
And here's why. I don't think that the Lakers will have home court advantage in the playoffs. I think that they're going to be 5-6 seed. And here's why. I don't think that they're going to try to push Anthony Davis and LeBron very hard, because I think that they're going to be doing a lot of, I forget what the word's called. They're going to be lightening their load management. That's what it was. I think that with LeBron and AD, that they're going to be giving them whatever they want in terms of time off. Will Kawhi and PG also be having that? Yeah. I think that LeBron's going to need a little more than that. And I think that the Clippers are going to I think the Clippers have surrounded Kawhi Leonard and Paul George with better pieces, which will allow them to do more work where they want to. They're going to be able to have a little more breathing room. Whereas the Lakers, it's really only that dynamic duo. With the Clippers, you have, coming off the bench, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. We already saw with the playoff series against the Warriors, as well as throughout last regular season, that can be a deadly duo come late game.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to worry about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for 35 to 40 minutes a game, but you're also going to have to worry about your bench players going up against the Clippers bench players, who could be starters on other teams.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that because of how deep the Clippers are, that Kawhi and PG will be more effective and more successful. But LeBron and AD, they're going to be sitting out more, and they really just don't have as many pieces around them to lessen their load.
I mean, I completely agree. I think LeBron and AD are going to be the most impactful. I think Kawhi and Paul George are going to be the most successful. What I don't agree with is I do not think the Lakers will be a 6 seed. But I definitely think that the Clippers at the end will have a better record than the Lakers.
Mitch?
Can't contribute anything that wasn't already said.
So I'm going to go a different route because here's my reasoning. I'm going to say Steph and Clay. Impact, because we saw it with LeBron and D-Wade. It took a little time to gel together. Obviously, it's Paul George and Kawhi and LeBron and AD. It's a little different. But from the beginning of the season, I think Clay and Steph are going to be the most successful coming out of the gate, just because they've been there together. They know what each other's motions and stuff are. But in the end, I think it'll be a toss-up between Kawhi and PG and LeBron and AD. But I think, Keegan, you brought up some good points about the bench depth. Paul George and Kawhi can get some rest because of their bench depth, unlike LeBron and AD. They don't really have a dominant bench player coming off the bench like Lou Williams and Montrez. But
I think my pushback towards Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is going to come from the fact that Klay isn't going to play until December or January.
Yeah,
just because he tore his ACL.
Stephen duo.
His timetable to return is going to be 5 to 8 months.
I'm going to argue my successful. I'm going RJ Barrett and Kevin Knox. Lock it in.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Non-jokingly, if we want to talk about a team in the East that a dynamic duo that could really get it done, that was one game away, the Philadelphia 76ers, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Watch out for that team. That is a hungry team that is looking to do some real damage come playoffs.
Max contract Ben Simmons. Yeah.
Tanner, what do you think about that?
Is that a mistake? Now. Name it up now, but you'll see. You'll all see. You'll see.
So, Tanner, Ben Simmons, the max contract. What do you think?
Good for him. That's all I'll say. He's got money. He's got financial security.
He can take care of.
Good for him.
Kylie, or no, which one is he dating? Kendall. Or, no,
Who
Travis.
knows? Who knows?
He'll
Who
take real
cares?
care of
Who
Kendall.
cares?
That's what it is. One more thing before we go. I think this came out. It was either yesterday or the day before. Giannis Antetokounmpo, when he was in Milwaukee during his MVP celebration, he said that he thinks he's only 60% towards his potential as an NBA player. So does that mean he'll finally have a jump shot next season, or what does that mean for you guys?
Regardless of whether he's predicting that he'll be better next year in terms of jump shot, I think that statement is absolutely true, and it's almost scary to think about.
It's terrifying.
And I think that's right around where I'd put the number, because 60%. So if the other 40% is him being, if 20% is even him being, an average shooter, and the other 20 is him just being an immaculate scorer shooter like Kevin Durant, which I don't think is really possible. I think his ceiling's a little below that.
Yeah.
But if he even reaches 20% to up to 80%, he'll be a force to be reckoned with for 10, 15 years. I mean, it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the sport is basketball. The sport is you shoot a basketball into a hoop. And if you cannot shoot, that's kind of a tough way to play the game. Now, it works for him because he's so fast and so long and so athletic. But if he is able to shoot, no one's going to say that's not absolutely terrifying for every single person who's not a Bucks fan.
Yeah. For shooting, did you wanna at Ben Simmons on that one?
At Max player Ben Simmons.
I think y'all are absolutely right. We saw Giannis's weakness exposed against the Raptors last season in the playoffs. That being said, he is working out with Kobe in the offseason, if y'all didn't know that. Who's perhaps one of the most prolific scorers we've ever seen. So if he develops a jump shot, that's going to be a scary man, to say the least. And now that I messed up my dynamic duo because I forgot Clay was injured, I'm going to say not obviously as dynamic just because they're in the East. I'm going to say Giannis and Chris Middleton, just to be different, and they're in the East, and they've shown they gel well together. So that's my duo. So, yeah.
I don't know. Giannis has trouble shooting. Brook Lopez has got enough shooting for all of them. He's sharpshooter from three.
He's the missing splash
My
cut
man doesn't miss.
State needs.
One other thing. Do y'all think Boogie Cousins will ever return to his old self?
No, I guess I was the one that reacted first. I started shaking my head immediately. It's a tough ask. I mean, The guy, he's in his 30s right now, right?
I believe so.
Early 30s. And I know we were talking about this. I said it I talked about it definitely with you, Tanner. I don't know if I told the rest of you in the group chat, but that's the injury that turned Kobe Bryant from, perennial superstar into an old man. And he was a shadow of his former self.
Absolutely.
And we saw it with Boogie Cousins, throughout the playoffs. I mean, obviously he had that second injury, which kind of hampered him a little bit more. And to be honest, they might have tried to rush him a little bit, his timetable for return, trying to kind of cram him into the playoffs. So I think the fact that he has another offseason to recover from an injury that severe will certainly help. But that is a very tough ask, to ask him to be playing at the level that he was, Pelicans and with the Kings years prior.
Yeah, to his former self, I mean, he was getting talks as a top 10 player. I mean, he was a top 10 player.
Yeah.
He was an absolute force in the paint. He could shoot. He had a team that didn't really have a lot of scorers, so he had free range to kind of score however he needed to. Do I think he can improve? Of course, he can continue to improve. The age, he actually is 28, so a little bit younger than we said. Still not fresh out of college or anything, but he can still improve. And for a Lakers team that can use all the depth they could possibly get, that would be absolutely huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, is it likely that he'll return to where he was on the Pelicans and with the Kings? I don't think it's likely, but does he have a chance? Is there a potential, to use a word that Tanner doesn't like? Uh, I think there is a chance, just based off of the fact that the Lakers are probably going to let him return on his own means.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike with the Warriors in the playoffs, as we mentioned earlier, they were trying to rush him back as soon as possible from that quad tear, and from the Achilles to have him ready for the playoffs. For the season. I think if the Lakers let him rest, let him recoup the way that he needs, and let modern technology work its wonders, I think that we could see a Boogie Cousins that is a half step below what he used to be. Uh, if things miraculously go as they need to, I think that's something that we can expect if he doesn't get re-injured. Because re-injury is the biggest problem when you're a big guy like Boogie is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once it's happened once, it happens again just that more easily.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he'll ever be his old self. But as you know, Kevin Durant also suffered an Achilles tendon. So I want to ask the same question, but according to KD, do you think he'll ever return to his former self with this injury?
I think the chances are much higher for Kevin Durant than DeMarcus Cousins, the way their body types are, the way they play the game. Boogie Cousins has been, so much physical contact, so much, bruiser type in the paint that really, if you don't have, if everything's not healthy, it's hard to get healthy. But do I think he'll be his former self, scoring 40 points a game in the playoffs, scoring at will? No one can guard him. I honestly don't, because of how, first of all, his age. He's 31, 30?
I mean, that's about right.
31, yeah. 30. So he's younger, or he's older than Boogie Cousins.
He's 30.
30.
Okay, 30. And I actually listened to a medical expert talk about this type of injury, and if just rehabbing the actual injured leg is hard enough, and I think we actually talked about it before, but because you're favoring that leg so much, there's a very high percentage of people who then get it in the other leg because of all the weight and all the pressure and all the stress it takes from favoring the other leg. So with all that, and now that he's on a good team again with Kyrie Irving, and he's going to be pressured to come back, and a team that he really needs to win with, I don't think he'll be as good as his former self.
Yeah, I don't think that he's going to come back and be a top 3 player. Some are calling him the best player in the NBA. I don't think he'll come back and be a top 3 player in the NBA again. I think he will come back to be a top 10 player. I think that's something that we can and will see. But to be as deadly and as consistently deadly as he was, I think the Slim Reaper as we know him is gone. Just like Kobe Bryant got pulled down, just like DeMarcus Cousins got pulled down, the Achilles tear is just so tough to come back from. And I think Kevin Durant, he has the tools, being 7 foot tall, being able to shoot the way he does. I think he's going to come back and be a prolific scorer, but he's going to be a bit more limited with his movement. I think I really don't have much more to say on it than that. It's so hard to project how things will happen from an injury, especially one like an Achilles. we can only hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitch?
Yeah, the way Tanner, we were talking about it. He loves his J. He's got to love it even more.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, that's really all I got to say about it.
Yeah, I think he'll be a top 15 player minimum, not top 3. I mean, he's one of the best scorers. I think we can relate this injury. I expect him to be like a Kobe, but better, if that makes sense. He'll still average 20, I think, but not like he used to. So that's all we have for the show. Y'all want to add anything else?
I was just thinking because, we kind of talked about the new trades and everything. We talked about the Thunder. We talked about the Clippers. We actually never addressed the Rockets in that end of the trade. So I was just kind of curious on how did the Rockets get better? How much better did they get? Where does this push them? Because I think they were a 4 seed last year?
4th, 5th.
4th or 5th, one of the two. 4th, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Utah was 5.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, where do you think that either propelled them or regressed them or what?
Yeah. I was glad that you brought up the Rockets thing, because I was actually going to bring it up if you hadn't. But with the Rockets, not only do I think that they got better, but I think that they extended their championship window. Because when you're replacing a 36-year-old or somewhere in that ballpark, Chris Paul, with a 30-year-old or somewhere in that ballpark, Russell Westbrook, you're going to get a younger player. It's just straight up facts.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a player who's not only younger but better. I would rather have Russell Westbrook right now than Chris Paul.
Yeah,
It's
who wouldn't?
just the way it is. And especially with the contract.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. How did that happen? But anyways, I think that it's going to be really cool to see Russell Westbrook and James Harden on the same court again, especially with how excited that James Harden seems to be. I don't know if you've seen some interviews with Harden now, but James Harden was really pushing the GM and the staff for the Thunder. For the Rockets to make that trade to acquire Russell Westbrook once he heard that Russell was on the trading block. And to see James Harden, who is this close to winning the MVP back-to-back, reinvigorated and wanting to play with an old friend of his who he already played with. I think that's going to be good for James Harden. And I think it's going to be good for Russell Westbrook. Because with Russell Westbrook and Paul George, throughout the first 3/4 of the season, Sam, you can attest to it. There was a little poll on whose team it was, whether Russell was the guy or PG was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they found out that was Paul George's team until he got hurt. And then once he came back, they could never get it right for the playoffs. It's why they got bounced in the first round. If Paul George never goes down, I think they make it to the second round. They get bounced then, but they make it past the first round.
Yeah.
But I think Russell Westbrook gets better because he's going to take less shots. Taking less shots means he's going to be more efficient. I think he's going to be better in Houston than he was in Oklahoma City, except for his MVP year. His MVP year is really tough. It's going to be really difficult for him to top just because of how much he was scoring, as well as the fact that it was the first triple-double we'd seen average since Oscar Robertson. But I think we're going to see a better Russell Westbrook because he's going to take less shots. We're going to see a James Harden because he's going to be excited to play with a teammate that, well, isn't 36 and old and on a terrible contract. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and you forgot to mention in his MVP season, he was also playing alongside 4 actual trash bags that were just kind of sliding along the court with him. So,
Russell Westbrook and Andre Roberson and 3 other trash bags.
Yeah, right. Literally not going to be so bad. He cannot put up those same numbers. But no, I definitely agree with what you two are saying. My initial reaction, and you guys can attest to this because I threw it right in the group chat, there was nah, it's a bad move. How in the world is this going to work? I jokingly said these two are going to be stripping the ball from each other on offense just to go ahead and get their looks. But then, you've made it even more concrete for me now, Keegan, now that you really think about it. These two have played with each other before. And I really do think that they are the type of players. I know Russell Westbrook, people love to say that he's a ball hog and he just likes to check up, he's a stat pad or whatever. But I really do think that the culture in Houston is just, how can we make this team better? How can we finally get past the Warriors? How can we be the best team in the West? And I think those two are certainly going to, whether it be maybe cut their ego down a little bit, or whether it be they're just going to understand their role and they're going to, work to the best of their ability. I think they're going to be a, what is it, the term symbiotic relationship, or a very healthy duo there with the Rockets to work with now and for the future.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it for the Rockets. As y'all have both mentioned, they have both played for the Thunder. But a lot of people are
Wait, Sam, what team did they play for?
all right, Keeks.
How good were they together? Did they get better? I can't remember.
Anyway, a lot of people have been saying they're both ball dominant, but they also average 8+ assists like last season, I believe. So I think they're going to gel really well together, and they're both guys that will go all out for your team, which I think will benefit the Rockets tremendously. I expect them to go pretty far in the West, so it'll be fun to watch them two back on the same team again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to the question, did they get better, is easy. They absolutely got better. They got a guy who will stay on the floor. They got a guy, like Keegan said, was younger. But the main thing for me was the second half of Keegan's answer, and it deals with the camaraderie issues. I mean, you have Chris Paul and James Harden. Seems like on the bench they were, getting into it a lot, raising their voices. Sometimes I think there's a video of where James Harden even pushes Chris Paul on the bench. Now like you said, you have a former MVP who is incredibly excited to play with Russell Westbrook, and I imagine Russell Westbrook's incredibly excited as well. He's going into a new territory, better chance to win, playing with a former MVP. Like, I imagine they're both super excited to play. It is going to be interesting to see how Russell Westbrook plays off the ball. I think he might struggle at first, but it's an 82-game season for a reason, and they'll figure it out. They're both incredible basketball players. They will definitely figure it out, and I do have the Rockets as the top 4 seed in the West.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue that. Anything else, y'all?
I'm just really excited. Last time we were talking about how we are this close to having parity again across the NBA if Kawhi Leonard does not sign with the Lakers. And he didn't. Not only that, but we have officially the end of the super team era. There are no more super teams. There are only a bunch of teams that have dynamic duos. And whatever team does not have a dynamic duo, they're either rebuilding or they are, all of them are essentially rebuilding one way or another, but a lot of them are on the up and up, like the Pelicans, for instance. Like potentially in 1 to 2 years, the Knicks. I have faith in them. They've looked like they've been doing good things ever since
A lot better than the Thunder.
Phil Jackson left.
But I'm just incredibly happy that we're finally going to have great basketball everywhere.
Yeah.
Every corner of the country is going to have a playoff, not only a playoff team, but a championship contender.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really exciting to see. We might see the best basketball in the regular season that we've seen in our lifetimes, just based off of how many great teams there are.
And I was just thinking, because of how many great teams there are, I was just curious if we wanted to end on a nice little fun thing. Off the top of the head, give me your way too early playoff picture. Who are the 8 seeds in order in the West?
In the West?
Nuggets, number 1.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Want me to go first?
I was saying,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not going to push much thought into this. I'm just going to go. Number 1, I got the Clippers. Number 2, I'm going to have the Utah Jazz. Number 3, I'm going to have the Houston Rockets. Number 4, I'm going to have the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 5, I'm going to have the Portland Trailblazers. Number 6, I'm going to have the Denver Nuggets. Number 7, I'm going to have, let's see here.
Warriors.
Oh, boy. Number 5, I'm going to have the Golden State Warriors. Number 6, I'm going to have the Portland Trailblazers. Number 7, I'm going to have the Denver Nuggets. And number 8, I'm going to have the let's go with, I can't even think of another team right now that's actually competitive in the West. Let's go with,
man, this is gonna be crazy.
All right, I got mine.
Let's go with the Spurs.
All right.
I'm gonna love this year so much, man. This is gonna be great basketball.
All right, I got the Clippers, number 1. Number 2, I have the Denver Nuggets. Number 3, I have the Rockets. Number 4, I have the Lakers. Number 5, I have the Trailblazers. 6, Jazz. 7, Mavs. Did I say the Warriors?
No,
I
not
don't
yet.
think it said-
All right. Clippers.
See, this is exactly what I wanted.
Clippers, Nuggets, Rockets, Clippers, Nuggets, Rockets, Lakers, Warriors, Trailblazers, Jazz, and Mavs.
Jazz as a 7 seed. I had him as my 2 seed, so you can see how
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Mitch,
a
you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Oh, I can go first.
All right, go
So
for it.
I would think Clippers, Nuggets, Rockets, Warriors, Lakers, Trailblazers, Spurs. That is that 8?
that's 7.
I
That's
think
7.
that's 7.
That's 7.
Who did I miss? I missed the team that
Jazz.
I missed. The
You
Jazz.
to the Jazz.
Substitute whoever I had as 5 as the Jazz, and then just go down from there.
So I think the Lakers you have as a 6 now.
We can look back on it in the recording.
Yeah. Look back at the recording.
Which goes against what I was saying, that they were
Yeah.
a top 3 team. But you know what?
Yeah. I think because here's the funny thing.
In a few months, I'll be able to look back and see. I play both sides, so I always
You're hedging the bet.
yeah.
Because the thing is I think that come playoff time,
I'd skip it.
I think that the Lakers will be a top 3 team. I don't think they're a top 3 regular season team.
Yeah.
That's my thing with the Lakers. So here's my 1 through 8. I don't have the Clippers at 1. I have the Nuggets at 1. They lost nobody. They got better. They just got more experience.
Just
The
like
Nuggets
keep in
at
mind
1.
that I had them at like 6. So
Yeah, right.
keep going.
The Nuggets at 1. The Clippers at 2. The Rockets at 3. The Jazz at 4. Wait, no, not Thunder. Sorry, Sam.
Wow.
So I went Nuggets, Clippers, Rockets, Jazz. We're gonna go with Lakers, Trailblazers. I need 2 more teams.
Yes.
Yes, we're gonna go Warriors, and then
Everyone's forgetting about those Warriors.
did I say Trailblazers?
You did.
Ah, man.
You got the Spurs.
Kings.
Kings.
Oh,
The Kings
okay.
make the playoffs.
Kings sneak in there.
Who do the Kings even have?
De'Aaron Fox and Willie.
Actually, no.
Oh,
I'm
no.
Gone.
actually gonna put.
I know they have
I'm actually gonna put the Mavericks at number 8.
Bagley.
Marvin Bagley, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy
There's
Hield.
Barnes,
Three.
I believe.
Yeah. The Kings take 1 more year. I'm gonna push them back to The
Bro,
2020-2021
next
season.
year, damn.
And then
We're gonna go with the Mavs.
a little bit easier. What do we got in the East? Because
another 8 teams.
for me,
Jeez.
again, right off the top of my head, I'm probably gonna forget some teams.
Yeah,
But
right.
I think one
The
I have,
Bucks is a good team.
I think I'm gonna have Philly. 2, I'm gonna have Milwaukee. 3, I'm going to have Boston. 4. See, now we got the whole mess of mid-tier East teams. 4, I think I'm gonna have. Let's go with probably Indiana. 5. This is hard, guys. 5.
Yeah. That's why I don't want to even mess with the East because I honestly have no idea.
Jeez.
You might as well just like close your eyes and throw darts on the board.
Seriously. 5.
It's-
You don't know what you got in Toronto. You don't know what you got.
Yeah.
And geez, 5. All right, I'm sure 5. I'm gonna have. If I'm gonna have Toronto, I think they make it back in this 5 seed. 6. I'm gonna have. Let's go with Orlando. I think they're going back in at 6. 7. Oh geez.
Brooklyn.
7. I'm going Detroit. 8. I'm going Brooklyn. I think
8.
Yeah, they only got one guy.
I
They
got
only
mine.
had one guy last year.
They don't have one
And they
guy.
got 6.
They got
They replaced
Kyrie.
D'Angelo Russell with Kyrie.
I got mine.
That Jarrett Allen dude. He's pretty good.
I mean, they got Jared Allen. He's a good defender. He's going to block a few shots. He ain't going to score.
All right, I got mine. All right, 1, Milwaukee. 2, 76ers. 3, Celtics. 4, Nets. 5, Atlanta Hawks.
What?
Whoa.
6,
Whoa.
6 Raptors. 7, Heat. And then let's throw in
throw out the Heat.
Wizards in there.
I forgot about the Heat. He might even be able to swing Chris Paul. So maybe a Chris Paul and.
Sam, did you not have the Magic?
I had them 6.
Oh, did you?
5th or 6th. Oh, I forgot the Pacers.
Oh, no.
I'm keeping with mine. I replaced the Hawks with the Pacers. There you
Again.
So the Hawks went from 5 to out of the playoffs.
go. They're going to be, I can see them being anywhere from 6 to 8.
Like in
Yeah.
Trigger Trade, DeAndre Hunter, and
Sam, do you want to push it back to 2021 like me?
Cam Reddish.
I got faith in Trigger Trey.
You got faith?
I got faith.
Mitch,
All
you
right, man.
stab at it.
All right, you hooligans. I'm gonna just go with Vegas's odds because Vegas is.
Vegas, baby.
So my 1 seed is the Bucks, my 2 seed is the 76ers, my 3 seed Celtics, 4 Nets, 5 Raptors, 6 Pacers, 7 Heat, 8 Pistons. That's pretty. I mean, it's straight chalk, but I don't think
Yeah, that's
there's
not,
nothing crazy
That's
about
great
it.
job. I'm going to go a little different here. 76ers and Bucks as my 1 and 2. Indiana at 3. Boston at 4. Brooklyn at 5. Then we're going to go with the Heat at 6. You know, Raptors at 7. And then we're going to have the
Hawks.
Magic finishing out at 8.
Yeah.
So, just in case you guys didn't get the point of this little exercise here, I had the Jazz at 2. Sam had the Jazz at 8 or 7.
7.
Yeah.
I had Brooklyn at 8. Keegan had him at 5. Sam had him at 4. I think Vegas, would they have him at? Vegas had him at 4.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's no more super teams. There's no more necessarily as clear defined chalk.
Yeah.
We have good competitive basketball again.
There's favorites, but not like the Warriors favorites. Not
Yeah.
like guaranteed. So This NBA season, I'm so ready for it. It's going to be such a fun season.
But the one thing they had in common: no Knicks, no Bulls, no Thunder.
Yo!
You wanna adopt an LA team?
Yeah, go
LA
Lakers.
Sparks.
Yeah.
Wrong
Hey,
one.
let's go watch it. Don't you?
LA Sparks.
I've been die hard since 19.
Woo. I've been die hard since 2010.
Yeah. Proud.
Anything else? Anything else?
The NBA season, I can't wait for it to get started. Next week, we're going to be coming out with some baseball. And are we going to include early NFL stuff?
Hey, well, we'll see. But
You guys just want me to be silent the whole time, huh?
a little MLB, majority MLB, maybe a little NFL.
Okay. MLB, I can get on board with that.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'm gonna have to do some baseball research so I can talk.
All right. Well,
Happy
all.
Travis Darno Day, everybody.
Yeah, no kidding. Get out of here. Yeah,
Well, that's all we have for today's show. Thanks for tuning in, and catch us next time.
see you next week.